The next technique we're going to talk about is the isolation or waving. I would say this techniques is kind of like the magic, the sound between the beats and how you want to kind of describe, from one point to another. Everybody kind of see it probably differently. And knowing how to isolate got nothing to do with knowing how to hit. Some people could isolate and do a lot of amazing waves, and they may not be into hitting at all. So that's absolutely a separate thing. So what is isolation and waving? I think one of the most important things to really think about is the difference between isolation and moving. So if I am moving my arm, I'm not necessarily isolating my joint. When we're talking about isolation and waving, it's always, isolating the joint to look like motion going through your body. So for example, what I'm doing now, let's say I'm doing this, right? Maybe a beginner will be like, I'm gonna do the old school, okay? Like a swim move. This is moving, okay? When we really talk about isolation, it's really just the joint that's moving. I'm not necessarily moving my arm. I am moving only my joint. My arm is still at the same level. Okay? And that's like the basic clip technique that we show, before we get into waving. Because like I said, waving and isolation could be separate as well. If you're doing a twisto, let's say you're doing a twisto flex here, okay? I'm isolating, but I'm not necessarily waving, okay? So that's what I meant by that. Some people could just want to do really clean isolation, let's say the head or whatever, a lot of people do all these kind of isolation and not necessarily waving. If you're just into light hitting, more robotic, and just into isolation, then you're not necessarily doing waving, or a lot of hitting. You're just doing what you need for the technique to accomplish your style. So that's a little breakdown. What is waving and isolation and why that technique is equally as important as hitting.